Welcome back to the channel, you kooks. Today we are going to be talking about surviving the winter in van life. We've been doing this for 5 years, so we have a couple budget-friendly tips for you, as well as some other tips that we've just learned along the way. So stay tuned and we'll get right into it.
First off, everyone's heard of it. It's everyone's favorite buddy, the Mr. Buddy heater. And I don't have one in this van, but we've used one in our previous van, our VW Vanagon, and we're really glad we picked that thing up. The one thing with Mr. Buddy is it can be a fire hazard, and you definitely need ventilation. So if you're gonna run your Mr. Buddy heater, you're gonna need to ventilate it because it runs off propane, and you can run into some problems there. It's really important to have good insulation on your van. We used a combination of Thinsulate and Reflectix, and we put the Reflectix on the outside, and we put an air gap in all the walls and hope that the Reflectix needed that air gap to get more R value. And we actually really think the 3M with the Reflectix solution has worked great. Right now it's about 48 degrees outside and our thermometer says 53 in here, so our bodies keep it warm and the insulation just really does a good job. One thing we totally blew it on is the floor. We did not insulate the floor, so we have this rug, and it's kind of funny. We'll on cold days, we'll move this rug around wherever you need to be. But I also know we got these hard bottomed slipper moccasins, and these are great for keeping warm. Usually when you touch the cold floor with your bare feet, because the floor gets so cold, because basically the cold just comes right up under the van. It's the coldest place, and it's like icicles down there. So we do the rug shuffle, we wear our slippers, and then we even have a rug here, and sometimes we put down towels. When there's snow, we'll put towels down, because you'll track so much snow through the van that you need a solution for that. And we've just found using towels is the easiest. Why we did not insulate it is, as you can see, I barely fit in this van, and if we added a 1/2 inch of foam board of insulation, I would be at the roof. So we figured that headspace was more important than insulation, and I still think to this day it is, because I can stand up fully and I can deal with the cold floor for 2 or 3 months of the year. But if I was in here, some vans I'm like this, if that was happening all year round, I just would rather have a cold floor than have a crink in my neck. Also, we have this vent fan cover, and we found this at a junkyard. It was in an old RV when we were getting parts for our last van build. So this works great, and if you need more tips on insulation, we have a great video on how we insulated our last Sprinter van, and it's been very helpful to people, so highly recommend you check that out. Make sure you do a good job insulating your van. It's going to pay off in the long run. Do your thermal barrier and vapor barrier and get that air gap, and you'll be set. And now Danny's going to show you how we keep the cold out from coming in from the front of the van.
Up front is where we usually see the huge variation in temperature, because a lot of your heat loss will come through the windows and leave through the windows. And during the summer, most of these window coverings pay off a little more because they reflect the sun, although in the wintertime they don't do as good of a job, but we do notice a slight difference when we do put these up against the windows. So we put those up against the windows, and the next thing that we do to create another buffer zone is I have made this magnetic privacy curtain, but it is also insulated, so it has insulation inside of this very thick fabric, and then it also has a blackout curtain on the back side, so when you look in it just looks black. And then this also magnets around the Snugger heater area. And so this, when we have this up, it makes a huge difference in the summer and in the winter of keeping the exterior temperatures outside of the van. And on that note, that is a reason why we don't have windows, is because we didn't want any heat loss or heat coming in through the windows, as well as we wanted it to be less available to break into through different places. So we don't have windows. These are fully insulated with Thinsulate behind them in each spot where there would be a window. So it has tons of insulation there. We never feel any heat loss through where you would have a window. So it really holds the heat in here, especially with this thing. That's like another way that we put some insulation in a place where you lose heat. Another thing that we do in the winter in the van to make sure that our van stays fully functioning, because we've ran into a couple incidents in the winter time, is at nighttime, because the temperature drops so much, we will turn off our sink pump when we go to bed, and we will empty out anything that is in the lines in any of the sink properties, because we don't want them to freeze. We've had it freeze to where, and once it runs out, that's good. And then you just turn those things off and you don't touch it for the rest of the night. So just make sure that you clear your lines before you go to bed, or else you might wake up to a non-functioning sink, and that's not fun, because then you have to go do the Home Depot thing again. If you are one of those snowboarders or skiers and you are going to be chasing the snow, you're going to want to make sure that you lay out your van in a way where your water is inside the van. And if it's inside the van in a place where it's not in this living space, like ours is in the sink, if it's behind in the garage, like I mentioned, you might want to insulate your water there as well. Or make sure that you have a 12-volt water tank heater pad applied to it, so that you can make sure that you always have running water and it's not frozen. When it freezes, it'll make a huge mess. Like, it'll come out of all areas where the pressure can be released. So just make sure that you keep, if you are chasing the snow, that you want to keep your water inside your van. That's just my tip for you guys. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
One of the most primitive ways to heat the van is to just get the fire going inside the van and cook your food and kind of trap all that heat in. You will want to use your fan to get the exhaust out and vent it out, but you will create quite a bit of heat while you cook your meal at night. Another huge thing is they don't call me Hot Bev Kev for nothing. During the winter, I probably drink about 50 teas a day, and today I got my Earl Grey and got my kettle, and I'm just gonna warm up some tea because it is evening and it's getting colder, and I'm ready for my about 12th tea of the day. Drinking a hot beverage will warm you up from the inside. It really nourishes that soul, and it really will actually keep you warm. And if you're drinking tea all day like me, you'll never be cold. So I'm just gonna whip up this tea real quick, and once it's done, I'm gonna show you another technique that you can use to make it through those cold nights. Water's ready, and I'm gonna grab this. Some people use Nalgene, some people use the actual water bladders to keep you warm, but since we're minimalists living in our van, this is all I got. So I'm gonna pour the hot water in this, and the secret is get your tea bag in there. So after you keep warm all night with your hot water bottle, you'll have a cold bev, but you'll have it all ready. So I got the ginger tea in here, so when I wake up tomorrow morning and the first thing I do my day is drink some water, I'll have a nice ginger essenced water. So what I do with this is it's already hot to the touch, and I'm gonna snuggle with this in my sleeping bag, and believe it or not, this little bit of water can actually bring you quite a bit of warmth at night. We covered how we can keep warm using our cooktop and our hot beverages and our little warm snuggle buddies, and now Vanlife Princess Danny is going to show you all the princess attire that keeps her warm and some tips on what you might want to get if you're going to endure this winter van life.
While I am not as tough as Kevin, he develops his brown fat, his adipose tissue. I don't do that stuff. So I should, but I don't. So he likes to tell me that I'm insulating the cold because I like to have a lot of layers and be like the Michelin Man when I'm really cold. I've tried it without, and the whole sleeping naked thing, it doesn't keep me warm. So I have different types of thermals. These ones are some really good tight-fitting thermals that you can wear almost under anything like jeans or anything and not worry about looking like the Michelin Man. And then I have also a couple base layers that I turn to. when I need to layer up some more. And then I have different types of jackets. So I have this Patagonia light one. That's more in like the summer, just to keep you a little bit warm if it's at night when it gets cold, or underneath my light puffy jacket. So I have my light puffy jacket, and then I have this this Fitzroy Patagonia jacket, which is my warmest jacket. Sometimes I'll even wear it over all my stuff and still stay very, very warm and happy. Kevin is a little tougher than me, like I said, so he has just a standard Patagonia jacket. And like I said, with those Patagonia stuff, they back it for life. You're going to be using these things every single day in van life, and we want to make sure that they'll last for years, or for at least an entire year. Another thing that I do in going to sleep to stay warm is I have this 32-degree sleeping bag. So I have this, I have all my thermals on, and sometimes when it gets really cold, we've been in 8-degree temperatures in the van, you guys, so I also put these on with my Smart Wool socks, and these are soft bottoms. Like Kevin had mentioned, we both have hard bottoms as well, but we both have soft bottoms to go inside the sleeping bag when we are freezing cold to stay warm. When we go to sleep at night, what we usually do is we keep this rumple below us because that adds an extra layer of insulation. And then we also have learned that if you have the memory foam with the gel top on it, the gel top is going to freeze. It's going to freeze in temperatures, and it's not going to keep your body very warm. So we have removed our gel top. This was an 8-inch. Now it's about like a 6.5 because we just peeled off that whole gel layer after a couple years of knowing that it freezes in the winter. But the memory foam, even without the gel, will still get pretty cold. So that's why we keep the rumple on there. Another thing that we don't do is a 12-volt heated blanket. We're just not into like heated blankets and electricity running through our touching our bodies all the time. So we don't do that, but a lot of people do that and have a lot of success in staying warm. And a lot of people have dogs. We don't have dogs. Those are great warm cuddle buddies, and they're furry. They love to cuddle in the cold too. So that's another way to stay warm and another perk of having a pet. So those are all the budget-friendly tips that we have for you to stay warm in your van in the winter. But when it's cold, and you're going to need a heater. And luckily, there's a lot of Chinese diesel heaters out there right now that are pretty cheap to keep you warm. We have the Snugger heater. We love the Snugger heater. We've had it for 3 years and had no problems. I know a lot of people with the Webasto, they always have to clean theirs. It has a lot of soot, and it's not good in different elevations, so it always smokes, and that can be, after a year using it, a lot of people usually have to clean it out, but for 3 years we haven't had to clean ours yet. When it gets really cold at night, we can usually survive without this during the day, but at night we usually have it running. So you press the button to get it going, and right now it's set to like shut off or chill out at 89 degrees. And usually that'll stay on for 2 hours. So sometimes we fall asleep and just let it turn off. And then we can set something for about 3 a.m. when it starts to get cold to reheat the van, and then it'll turn off in 2 hours. Usually there's a vent cover there, but the air sometimes coming out of that vent cover doesn't escape as fast as it needs to, so it kind of circulates and goes back into the heater and overheats the heater. So we just have it just an open thing like that. That doesn't really bother us. Sometimes you kick it off with your foot too if you're sitting there, so we just leave it off. It's more sleek that way, and it functions better. We installed this ourselves. It seems pretty intimidating, but I ordered this without Kevin's knowledge because I knew that I was going to be very cold. So when it arrived, Kevin kind of gave me the task of installing it, and I took it gladly because he wasn't going to make me send it back. So I installed that, so if I can do it, you can do it. This one, when we bought it, was the only kind of knockoff from the Webasto. We got it about a little over 3 years ago, but now there's way more budget-friendly options on the market. There's $100 knockoff Webasto Chinese diesel heaters, and there's $150 ones. We personally know people that love these devices, the $100 ones, and say that they work perfect. They've never had to clean them out either, like ours. It really heats this van up so quick. You'll almost be taking off your layers and doing the get naked thing if you had the heater running, because it gets hot fast in here. They are just so efficient. They use hardly any energy. The most energy that they use is when it is starting up and getting hot. And then after that, they hardly use any gas and they hardly use any energy. So if you do pull the trigger and you get one of these diesel heaters, one of the things that I think has helped with our success in not having to clean it so much is we run it high. We don't ever just have medium temperature. When we were researching this, one of the things that we found was people had more success when they ran their diesel heaters on high rather than medium or low, because it just burns off all that soot and then you don't get that black smoke coming out of it. Also, another one of the things with the diesel heater, it does have a safety shut off where it won't take all of your gas so that you're stuck in a location because you have an empty gas tank because you heated yourself all night. What it does is it cuts off at a quarter tank. Just be prepared and have it at least half tank so that you don't freeze at night. We've had that happen to where we kind of were negligent of how much gas we had and we were running it, and then we couldn't figure out why it wouldn't start up, and then we turned the vehicle on to heat it that way, and we found that we barely had any gas. So it was good that it didn't get us stranded, you know, that it has that safety shut off. But yeah, that's all that we really got for you guys. I hope this video was helpful with some of our tips that we've learned over the years. If you have any tips that we haven't mentioned, if you could put it in the comments, I think that would be really helpful for people that are worried about living in their van in the winter. So it's about 20 degrees right now, so I'm gonna continue to get more bundled up and get in bed. And in the meantime, why don't you guys like and subscribe and tell your friends. And thanks for watching. See you guys later. Bye, you kooks.